Yep.
But let's start with that first question about playing with family members, because I think that we've got some insight. Flutes was my first DM, and we definitely had a lot of growing pains, him DMing for me and me playing for him. I would say that our biggest problem is that, like, when you're playing with friends or people that you don't really know very well, you don't really read between the lines in what they say, and you stay immersed in the world. But I found that when I played with Flutes the first couple of years that we played together, I would often see like his micro movements, or how he would have a facial expression when I asked a question, and that would just tick me off. I had to learn to separate myself from him as my spouse so that I can read very well. And I'm sure it's similar with kids. Like when you're teaching your kids, they don't always listen to you very well, or they take things personally. So I assume it's similar. You just have to kind of buffer that. When you're talking about younger kids, maybe that responsibility is on you as the DM.
Fred Wheeler, who does How to D&D, he's actually doing some teaching of D&D through some service. I think it's one of those like do classes for kids things. Maybe I've got that wrong. He's doing something. He's interviewed a woman who does, like, I think it was at a library or at a school for kids specifically. And a lot of the feedback, because I want to teach my kids play D&D, I want to be able to play with them. I want to teach them improv, all that kind of stuff. The things that they pointed out was that props are great. Like, kids love props. They love pop culture references. Like, sometimes as adults we try to say we're going to try to get away from tropes and just playing, I'm Naruto or I'm Batman,
Or you give your NPCs very fantastical names like Clarmaturgeon, and they're like never gonna remember that. But pop culture references stick in their mind better. Like, this is Justin Bieber, and I don't know, that's just an NPC that they can run into.
Right. So when they're making characters, instead of saying, do you want to be a ranger, sorcerer, wizard, you might say like, oh, what's a hero, some person you'd want to emulate, and see if they bite on that. If they don't, then you can kind of go into the tropes and explain the classes or what spells are. But the pop culture references can actually help a lot with kids because they don't have the same abilities to just like build backgrounds and make a character out of nothing. So if they have some frame of reference, that can help them get started. And then obviously it's going to be difficult if you don't keep it kind of rules light. A lot of kids, they can do math, but their attention span might be a little limited and they might need to repeat a lot. Or kids might be more invested in learning it. You don't really know, but you want to kind of fill out which rules to kind of not worry about too much. But also, you don't have to do that forever, because sometimes you're omitting a rule for a little bit, but you can treat it like a tutorial in a video game where you don't get like everything all at once. You get to like, you beat some stage and then you get some new item, and then that's like a whole new world of your abilities that you can take on, right? And so you can kind of slow roll out different features like, oh, we haven't really talked about encumbrance yet. Do we want to run encumbrance? Okay, now you just reached level 3 and you're an Eldritch Knight. You get spell casting. Let's talk about that. And so there's certain things that you kind of do a slow roll out that can help out with the kids. And then also snacks help a lot. Go to How to D&D, Fred's channel, and find his interview with, I forget her name, but it was about like playing D&D with kids. That was like an hour-long discussion with someone who is a pro doing it full time, and I highly recommend checking that out. I think I'll have to watch it again when our kids are a little bit older and ready to start playing games.
We've also played D&D with Flutes' sister. I think we started when she was maybe 11, and she's a little bit older now, but their attention seems to wane pretty quickly. And they also just have this barrier sometimes, maybe less so with homeschool, but I feel like if they're public schooled, they might have this barrier of, I don't know what I can do because I've been told what to do for so long. I don't know like how much I can explore. And this happens with new players too. They don't necessarily want to make choices because they're like, I don't know the rules yet, so I don't know what I'm able to do. And so just really just letting them know, like, you can do anything, whatever you choose. You can go talk to any person, you could whatever. Just letting them direct themselves, maybe talking a little less and letting them talk more. And then you just kind of help them out throughout that. I think that would really help them open up to being able to make choices in the world.
Yeah, I like what you just said here about Cammy, that you give them a banana peel card to do something zany once per session. That's great. And it looks like they're definitely feeding into the tropes of like the Hogwarts graduate and stuff like that. So that's fantastic.
And that gives them structure so they know what they can do. Like if I'm a Hogwarts student, it's not just some sandbox prompt, but it's like I know the structure of that world a little better. So I know what I can do and what I shouldn't do per se, but you might break those rules.
I know doing homeschool often, a lot of my best friends have been homeschooled. I was a public school kid, but I guess most people are. But my homeschool friends, they often had some extracurriculars that their parents tried to get them to do on the side. And so D&D can function as that kind of for you and your kids, right? or maybe you could even implement it into their schooling. I don't know, you're the expert on that. But it'd be cool if you could kind of turn their lessons that they need to learn into D&D material, whether it be learning about history. Maybe you make a D&D scenario where it kind of emulates that history they're supposed to learn. Math is obviously going to come up. Creative writing can come up. You can make your game your lesson. That's a unique benefit and opportunity, I think.
And socially, you're simulating these encounters. Like, they are actually social encounters. Maybe you can simulate some laws of gravity, or I don't know, just how you talk to other people. It's just ways to play within the world without like actually having consequences.